Welcome to The Power of Rhythm, a podcast with your host Reinhard Flatischler, founder of Mega Drums, Taketina Symphonic, and a worldwide network of groundbreaking rhythm training. This podcast will offer you an incredible diversity of voices around the one thing that connects us all: rhythm.
Hi and welcome to episode 32 of my podcast. When I started to teach drums in 1980, I was surprised to see almost no female drummers on stage or on any drum classes. I don't know if this was the result of a wrong education or the disencouragement of some male macho drummers. What was clear to me is that this had to change. Men and women are different. That's the beauty of polarity. And that means that women enrich us with a playing style men cannot provide. That also explains why in ancient times, in many shamanic traditions, women always have been drummers. Today I am really honored to welcome a guest who is not only a great musician but also lives her drumming in a spiritual context. She's one of the few professional female frame drummers in the world today. She's a Grammy-nominated percussionist and flautist and an internationally recognized educator, performer, and composer. Welcome, Marla Leigh.
Oh, so nice to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. And wow, what beautiful thing you just shared. You know, it's so true. It's really true about the female drummers.
Yes, so we'll talk about this in length. But first, I'm really curious. How did frame drum and flute come into your life?
Wow. Well, I had the blessing of growing up with a very musical family. So my I think it's my great uncle was the violinist for the Tsar. The stories of that. My great grandmother was a piano player. My father was an opera singer and a doctor. So music was very warmly welcomed. And I actually started piano when I was a little girl. I started at 3. And then my sister played the clarinet. And so she was older. And I used to go to her concerts and I would see this silver thing. And I was like, I want to play the flute. So, I started flute lessons, I think in 4th grade, and my flute teacher had really bad breath. And so I couldn't handle it and I quit because, and then I decided that if I give my flute teacher mints at my lessons, that I can continue with flute because I really liked the flute. So I had a very classical upbringing with the flute and the piano. I was doing competitions and first chair, that whole thing with bands and orchestras. And I really loved classical music. And I also really wanted to improvise. And my teachers would never encourage that. They would say, okay, yeah, you can do that, but let's play the pieces, which is, it's beautiful to play the classics. And I'm so grateful for that. But then when my teachers would go, I would just put the radio on and play along and improvise. And so then I decided to pursue music professionally. I thought I was going to be a music teacher. And I was going to be a jazz flautist. Those are kind of what I wanted to do. And I went to Cal Arts, which is in a wonderful school in California. And literally the first month, like the second week of school, there's this man sitting in the corner with all of these really cool drums and these sunglasses on. And I didn't know anything about who this man was or what these instruments were. And I said, what are these? And he goes, just sit down and listen. And when he played, I got the chills you've never heard, you've never seen, you could see them from another country. They were so what is this? So I went up to this man afterwards, and this man actually was John Bergamo. And for those who do not know, John Bergamo was a legend. He was an incredible human, first of all, and teacher, an incredible musician. He played with Zappa. He's a really incredible, he was the head of percussion at Cal Arts. And so his whole thing, was, improvising, taking Indian concepts and taking all these worldly concepts and improvising on the frame drum and other instruments. So, he played a solo and I just got the chills. And he said, well, you're a student, even though you're a flute major, you can still study with me. And so I was like, really? So then I started studying with John, frame drum. And then all of a sudden I started taking tabla lessons with Swapanda Chowdhury. I started taking A-way drumming lessons with the Lexepkos. And all of a sudden, like, my flute curriculum kind of like went smaller and smaller. And I ended up getting a master's in percussion. I just completely like fell in love. And at that time, I also met Glenn Velez in my master's degree and studied with him for over a decade. So, it's like, I had no idea this was going to happen, but I just like got the chills, and it was just like a full body yes. And I'm still a student. I still love learning. It's like an amazing thing how you can it's an endless journey.
And what you just said gives us a first hint, as I was researching all of your videos, that you are really into improvisational music. That means you teach from the very beginning your students to improvise, which I think is beautiful, because there's a lot of even tabla players, they learn their kindness and reynolds, and if you ask them to just improvise, play along, they don't know what to do. So improvisation is really a big thing. And so let's go into what we're doing here. The first song, the first track we're gonna hear is the Tof Miriam. It's called Rhythms of Tof Miriam. And so what is Tof? It's, of course, a drum, the taf, right? Mm-hmm. And Miriam was Aaron's sister. Let me see if I'm right here. And
okay.
And Aaron and Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, and this was this opening of the Red Sea then. And here you have in Exodus 15:20, then Miriam, the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took the tambourine, called Tof Miriam, or the frame drum, in her hand, and all the women followed her with tambourines and dancing. What a scene! So tell us a little bit, your background, of course, is Israel and is all of that scene we just described. Tell us a little bit about how you came with this title and what it means for you in your life and spiritually.
Well, you just did a great job explaining the history. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
So, the frame drum has this incredible ancient lineage with women. It's actually one of the only instruments that women played thousands of years ago. And when we look at the history, we see that they play them in different cultures. And in the Jewish culture, it was known that Miriam, the prophetess, played the frame drum. Now, I fell in love with the frame drum because of its timbre and its sound and its possibilities and the improvisation and the freedom. I had no idea about the history of women until I was probably 6 months of really hardcore into the study of this instrument. So, and when I found this out, I was like, wow, that's amazing. And particularly with the Jewish story, because my name at birth is Miriam and I am Jewish. And so when I heard about the story and how, they were in the desert and Miriam was a prophetess and she saw into the future. And so, they're going into the desert and, you're going to bring your water, you're going to bring, your supplies. But Miriam brought Tof, the frame drum, because she knew that the Israelites were going to be freed, which I think is amazing. So at the moment when the Red Sea split, Miriam and the women celebrated with song and drum and dance. And, that's just so powerful of what the instrument represents. It has this amazing symbolism for freedom and joy. And so I had always wanted to go to Israel to just go to this country. I'd been when I was 15, but because I'm a frame drummer, Middle Eastern music is like my beloved. And there's nothing like going to the source. And so in 2019, I decided that's it. I did a world tour, the longest tour I did. I played at Tambourine Mundi Festival, actually in Germany, and then I played in Italy, and then I just did this tour in Europe, and then I ended up in Israel. I didn't know, I went to Israel to do a video honoring Miriam, the ancient women. It was called Rhythms of Tof Miriam. That's what I went there to do. And I didn't really know anybody in Israel. I met somebody at Tambourine Mundi who gave me recommendations of people to work with, and I just ran with it, and I connected with Noam Chodnowski, who did the video, and he totally got my vision. And then I met Shahar Kaufman at Ong Studios, and he totally was into the project. He was my engineer. And I went for it. And it was so positive that I ended up recording a full album when I was in Israel. I ended up having extra time in my schedule. The engineer had time in his schedule, and it was like magic. And I fundraised through my students and my fans and friends for the whole project. And we reached beyond the goal. So, it was so amazing to step foot into the ancient lands and do this project honoring Miriam. I felt that when we did a lot of the video footage in the Negev desert, and I had been there before when I was 15, and I just loved the Negev desert. That's where I first actually saw the frame drums. I actually snuck out of my tent and played frame drums with the Bedouins and drank tea. So it was like stepping on these lands and doing this offering, honoring Miriam was like, I got chills like all the time, because it was like, whoa, rebirth. Have I done this before? And it was powerful. And then, we had incredible people involved in the project. So in this song, we had Yair Dalal, who is an incredible udist, Israeli udist, incredible composer. He played on it. And we had Mira Segal, who's an incredible ney player. It was just so beautiful. And it's a pretty, the music of the song is pretty complex. And I was telling Reinhard, I was telling you this, in my emails too, that I really like these long time cycles. And so this is a super duper long time cycle, but it's broken into two sections. So the first section, and also it's kind of like a bibliodrama of the story of Miriam. So the first section is when they're walking through the desert. So we have some beautiful dancers that are in this video, Lalita and Zola. And it's like we're walking through the desert, and we're like slaves in the desert. And then the second part is like the freedom and the Red Sea split, and it's more upbeat. And so yeah, I mean, I could go down into tell you the details of the time cycles of each section, but maybe I don't know.
No, well, is there any hint for our listeners that you can kind of, before we listen, how could they feel the cycle? Any hint from your side?
No. Well, first when I composed it, I really wanted to be in an 18-beat time cycle because it's a very symbolic number in Judaism. And I messed up. It wasn't. I thought it was.
So what is it?
The first section it's 3 9s and 1 8.
Okay. Wow. Cool.
So 27 plus 8 is 30. What is 27 plus 8? 35. Okay. And then the second section actually did stand true to the 18. The second section. So then there's a break, and it's an obvious break. Then we go into this heartbeat. And I feel like listeners could actually click more to the second section because it's very, the numbers are very straightforward. It's a 5, 5, and a 4, and a 4. So if anybody wants to count along, that's where I would encourage you to do it, is in the second section. The first section is a little trickier, but I am going to create an online program where I'm going to teach this because I think people it's really fun for students.
I was just cracking up because if you have 3 9s and then an 8, it's kind of a rhythm in itself, because there are the 3 9s that build a circle. Then there's another section, then you have another 3 9s. So you can also look at not just as a 35, but as a 3 times 9 plus 1 times 8. I love these big structures myself, having studied in India so long. So I think our listeners are ready now to hear Tof Miriam. Rhythms of Tof Miriam, composed and performed by Marla Leigh. All right, what a powerful music that is. Now, there is one oud, or a string instrument.
It's the oud. Yeah. Jalal is playing that.
Oh, and all the rest is just you?
No, Miara Saigal is playing the ney, the flute.
The ney. Oh, this is the ney. You're right.
Yeah, and then that's me on I'm playing all the percussion on that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, of course, you are teaching as well, and I see you teaching with a lot of passion, which is so great. And you're using, of course, the syllables that are like tum, tak, ka, and so on, that are usually for frame drums. Different syllables for tabla or pakawach in North India. And then you also went into Solkatu, which is, again, a South Indian drum language. How did you get into South Indian drum language?
Well, when, as a student at Cal Arts, this was just like my upbringing. And so John Bergamo was John Bergamo. Did you know John at all?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a feeling you did. So you know what a man he was.
Yeah.
But he was really innovative he spent a lot of years in India studying tabla, and then he came back to America, and he would use these vocalizations on his drumming, on his other types of drumming, whether it be playing a pot, a pan, a frame drum. And so he really taught me a lot about using the vocalizations, and so did Glenn Velez. I had a lot of training with him. And it's a mixture, because I've also, I don't play it professionally, but I've had 20 plus years of tabla lessons with Pandit Swapan Chowdhury. Yeah. So I'm like a hidden tabla player who I use a lot of the language in my frame drum playing. And so it's kind of like mixed together, but I really believe that the Solkatu system. So when I was learning Solkatu, I was learning it from Puvlar Srinivasan at Cal Arts, and also I studied with Truchi Sankran. And growing up being Westernly trained, 1E and a 2E and a 3, when I learned how to count 4 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4 with the phrase, for example, takadimi, it was life-changing. It not only helped with my hand drumming, but it helped in my classical flute playing. It helped in my flute playing, my piano playing, my improvisation. It was like this key that unlocked so many things, especially when you're thinking about improvising. Mm-hmm. When you're thinking about improvising, you don't want to recite in your head 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, say you're improvising in 4. That's
you can't. It's impossible.
Impossible. But it's really fun with when you improvise the Solkatu phrases, the takadimi, and the different speeds that they teach you to, recite the rhythms in, the triplet speeds, so it was like amazing. And it's like, how this work is in Indian music, it's endless. So it's like, how can we take some just like tiny bits of the information from South Indian and North Indian music and infuse it into our playing,
Yeah, and a lot of people always ask me, well, is Taketina or is the syllables Solkatu? It's not, I came to a very different conclusion with this. I was in India, in Delhi, and I was about to develop this body work, Taketina, and I had a teacher who met me there, and I was asking, look, there is syllables for tabla, syllables for dance, syllables for anything. Is there not a general movement syllables? He said, no, you have to find this. This was Harish Chouhari in the Simla house in Delhi. So I laid on the bed and was just starting to go for a walk. So if you say g, m, la, which is kamala, it's throat, lips, and palate. So you have a 3 already going. Or you say ta, k, ta, na. You go like ta, front, k, back, ta, and up. So it's more an orientation. Whereas Solkatu is more the drum language, that you will apply on the mridangam or on the tabla. So it's more an orientation language. And then if we go in an improvisation, we use improvisational syllables. For example, if I do a 5, it's like gamma la ta ki gamma la ta den chikiti bamba do re di chikiti bamba do re go yeah go. So you have to kind of always 2-3 layers, and so this is a little different system. And how would you respond with your solkatu, let's say?
This is so cool. I loved hearing just like how it developed, how the Gamalataka, because, I've taken a few of your workshops, not with you, but the Gamalataka was very cool. I remember that. And that's really nice to hear how it developed with you. So, we still, for example, in 5, right? So it's like taka, takita, taka, terikita, taka, taka, terikita, taka. I would just, keep the hand clapping, and then I would just let my voice go like taka, taka, kita taka, terikita ta. Takita, kita taka, terikita ta, terikita taka, terikita, kita taka, terikita ta, terikita taka, terikita, kita taka, terikita ta. And like all of these are phrases that we can play in the frame drum too, which is really fun. And they're not traditional phrases. They're like... It
sounds like tabla. It sounds very much like tabla.
It is tabla. A lot of it is tabla mixed with solkatu. It's kind of like its own little thing, But yeah, those were tabla phrases. A lot of that were tabla phrases.
Also a little bit of this, But of course, this is so great to hear all the differences of the abundance of what is there. Solkatu, and then you have the tabla phrases, pakabat phrases, a little bit different again, mridangam phrases. And yeah, so I was happy to explain to you that my system comes completely out of a different, has nothing to do with an Indian origin or African origin.
Amazing. It's very cool. When you're improvising, what language are you using? The Gamala Taka?
You have a couple of syllables that just give you the orientation. That's Taketina, Musangala, Gamala, Taki. They don't change. They are the underlying matrix. But then over this, you can go like Mbara yete go, Mbara yete go, ba, go, lady, go, lady. So you kind of sketched out. And so let's go to this place where you are. When I see you teaching drumming, there is a fantastic thing. I see you always keeping the basic parts, so you teach your students. As you said, you're keeping here the maintenance of the rhythm, and you teach them to do that and then play the drum here. That's very rare. I love that approach very much, because a lot of people just try to play their rhythm and they don't do any stepping or any, basic underlying parts, which is the main thing that carries everything. So I really enjoyed you seeing how you teach on the videos that I've seen.
That's great. Yeah, I run this Frame Drum Academy online school, and I'm in all of my videos, I'm really adamant about the metronome and keeping like a polyrhythm with your foot, like bells or something like that. Because I think you're right. It's so important to have a reference point for the rhythm. And we could play a rhythm and we think we're in tempo, we think we're playing it great, and then we get with a metronome, we're like, oh my gosh, I am completely rushing. And so it like syncs the brain, when you have a reference point, when you play a rhythm as a polyrhythm with a metronome or foot bells. I think it's a really good practice. And then of course you can add something to the other foot, so then you're really a rhythm machine,
Yes, Glenn did this a lot. Like he puts a rattling one and then plays frames. I'm here. I enjoy playing with him. Now, I think we're ready for another beautiful piece of music from you. It's called Awakening. It's so up to date because I really feel, honestly, in the mess we are right now, people are really waking up in big numbers like never before. I see a great awakening happening. Many might say, oh, I'm so optimistic. No, I really see it happening. And before we hear it, I have to really give you a big compliment about how you record music. That's amazing, When we start this, you will see this is like the right echo, and it wakes you up, and it's kind of amazing. Where did you record this? Also in Israel?
Yeah, so all the recording credits go to Shahar Kaufman from Ankh Studios in Israel. He, it's one thing as a musician to go into a studio and record, but it's another thing to go into a studio and record with somebody who actually knows how to record your specific instrument. So when I went into the studio, he had all these mics set up, particularly for the frame drum, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is heaven. So I feel like I was like recorded like the frame drum princess. And so, yeah, we really spent a lot of time tuning the drums. Tuning was very important. And, really sound was very important for this album. And we had it mastered by an incredible person too. So yeah, and thank you for that, because we really focused on the sound too,
So here it is, Awakening. Awakening, composed and performed by Marla Leigh. What a powerful music, wow. And turning from here actually to healing, I really feel that a big aspect of what music is for you is the healing aspect, and we would really appreciate you telling us a little bit about the background, how you see it, how you apply it, how you manifest it.
Well, I so I grew up again, studying music. It was all I did. I loved music. It just, when you do it as a young child, you don't realize you're doing it. You just do it, And and then when I was in college, it was like I needed a spiritual connection to music. It was like um, I needed it to be more than just reading notes on a paper. And so I started to just approach it in more of a spiritual way. And I also became, more spiritual in college with yoga and meditation and really, taking that aspect important in my life. And, the drumming has been used for thousands of years as a spiritual tool, but I had never used it that way. I had only really focused on it as a scholastic way in college, And so it's endless explorations as using the drum and music as a spiritual tool. And, in my own personal life, I've had a lot of people close to me pass away, and the drum helps me so much. I think music is it's your best friend. It's like something that won't ever be taken away from you. It's something that's always there for you. You can visit it at any time. And, it always lifts my spirits. And I'm so grateful for that. I don't know how the shamans were using the drums years ago, but I do know that they were using it a long time ago, and people have been using music for healing and, work in that kind of manner, thousands of years ago. So I think it's more about tapping into it, instead of just playing notes on a page. You really you can close your eyes and try to improvise something and then open your eyes and play the notes on the page. I think it's just balancing it is really important.
Have you ever tried to apply your playing to therapy in various settings?
I have done workshops, in healing centers. I've done tons of yoga, in yoga studios. I have done for the elderly, therapeutic workshops. But yeah, so my passion is composing and teaching a holistic approach to drumming, because so many people go at it and they just think they have to play with the metronome and that's it. But it's so much more. So I call my teaching like college level training with a spiritual twist,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to infuse that in there, or like taking a break when you're learning something to just close your eyes and breathe, or just stretch your body. So yeah.
So what I find again interesting is our next tune is a very amazing tune. It's The Dawn of Truth. And it is kind of recommended from you as a lying on the floor meditation, kind of, And at this point, I would recommend for all our Taketina listeners, because in Taketina, when you do these processes, you need to lay down and integrate. Otherwise, you lose half of the effect, So that's a beautiful way to, be in Vipasana on the floor and kind of get the integration. So this is the next thing, Dawn of Truth. The Dawn of Truth. Marla Leigh. It's a fantastic music for Vipassana, like the asana where you lie on the floor, you open yourself up to here, to now, to listening. Wow. Can I ask you something? What is the significance of space, emptiness, stillness in music for you?
Oh, music is the silence between the notes, right? It's really important. It's the ghost notes. It's the ones we don't hear. It's the quiet ones, Very beautiful question. And I think it's really important to add that into your practice and playing, not just to play, but to give some space and to breathe with the music, You ever breathe when you play music? I think the flute do that. The flute teaches you about breathing and breath, but the frame drum too, because of its its resonant sound. You have the space that you can have any instrument.
How do you convey this to your students? Like they listen to the background, to the stillness, to the inaudible movement underneath. How do you teach that? How do you convey that to your students?
I have them do a lot of breathing when I have them play. Like I have them like pause and like connect to their breath. How's their jaw? Is it tense? And then and then I have them. We have in frame drumming. We have a lot of ghost notes. So you can choose to play the ghost notes quietly, or you can also choose to have space and rest. So, a lot of the material I write when I teach, I don't fill in everything. I always have rests and I teach them to internalize the rhythm, because a lot of people, have never played a drum before coming to me and they're so new to how to understand rhythm. And so teaching them how to feel the beat, feel the pulse inside is really important. And then through that, I feel like they learn to feel the space in music where it's not just like, they're feeling the pulse. They see there's a rest and they pause. They're also paying attention to their jaw and their breath. Are they relaxed? So it's like a little combo pack.
So you're also teaching people who have never touched the drum. Okay. And you have a drum academy, you said. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is it about?
So I have a master's degree in percussion, and my dream was to be a professor. That's kind of what I wanted to be, compose my own music, which I've been doing forever, and be a teacher, professor in a college. And so when I graduated, I started looking for jobs, and all of the jobs I found, they wanted you to play not just world music. They wanted you to do classical Western percussion, and I don't have that training. And so I was like, oh man, I have so much I want to teach. So then I decided to do my own academy. And it was going to be first like educational DVDs. And then I just took it online. About 5 years ago, I started this academy. And we have two programs now, a Frame Drum 101, which is a beginner level, and a Frame Drum 202. And they're like 4-month journeys where we learn how to play the frame drum in all three styles. And then we have a module dedicated to composing and improvisation, which I really like. So I teach them a lot of the sollcatu. And it's quite amazing what people can learn online. And I love the community that's formed of this. Like people have joined us from all over the world. I think I've graduated now over 800 students, and then I have over about 3,000 students in my programs that are not paid. So, it's a really sweet community, and people are posting videos of themselves teaching, and that makes me so happy. Or when they do an improvisation, or like they have a tear in their eye that they've just, played their first groove solo. They've never done that before. It's like, it's powerful, it's really powerful medicine. And I'm so grateful. Like I love one of my students, actually, this awakening song that you played. She loved it so much. She made a video of herself playing it. Like she learned she learned these parts, and I was like, oh my gosh, And, I work with Cooperman Frame Drums there. I endorse their drums. I have signature series with them, and we have this challenge. And so I don't know about you, but I like to have challenge for my students. And so in my academy, we have the Share the Drum Challenge. And what they have to do in there is they have to make a video of themselves playing something, anything. Okay. And I like to encourage them to compose something. And then they, and I get, because they make this video, I get to put it online, so they have to come out of the drum closet, and I choose a raffle winner and they get a Cooperman drum. And so it's really great to see a lot of people who have never played a drum before, who are shy, come out and play a rhythm that they composed. It's great. It's really special.
Congrats to all of that. And I can confirm, during the last year that I was locked in here, more or less, we're not locked in because we are in the middle of nature and there's a huge garden and pond and everything, so we never felt this pressure. But we started this whole online teaching, and I didn't expect how deep you can go in that. You can do a lot online. So I can really imagine how you teach that. And yes, challenge. That's great because people now get more confident, go out, show themselves, And so for the last song, I chose Longing because I believe in this grand awakening where we are, you need a deep longing, for the spiritual connection. You need a deep longing for love, for all these good elements come into our life, for everyone, So, longing. Longing, Marla Leigh. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of your
This song, a little bit longing for a second. I would love to share a few things. Is that possible?
Yes, please, of course.
So longing was really special. It actually features a rhythm, a traditional rhythm called the Zarafat rhythm. And it is a 13-beat rhythm. And when I heard that rhythm, I just fell in love with it. And then my producer, the person who recorded the album, he came up with this beautiful melody. And the instrument you're hearing there, you're hearing a mandol. The mandol is the lute-like instrument, the string instrument. And then you're hearing a Comanche. We had a beautiful Comanche player come in, and it's a really beautiful track. And we actually have a music video coming out for this in a few months. So there's going to be a video with this coming soon.
Cool! Wow.
Okay. That people can learn to play along with. Those of you guys interested.
Thank you so much for this information. And with all of that, you kind of promised to do something for us live.
Do you want that? Would you like that? I mean,
I would love it. Come on, it's really, this is a podcast where people see live things and whatever you want to do. You can sing, you can drum, whatever.
Well, I want to try this this thing, but you just had amazing, exquisite recording, and now you're gonna have live. Okay, let me just put some powder on my hands, and then we'll do it.
Yes, it's live.
So, okay, here we go. I am going to do something that I'm still working on. So this is I've been fascinated with looping for over 20 years, and I've never really focused on it. And sometimes you think you're doing a loop in a time cycle, and then you're doing it live, and then it's in the wrong time cycle, and you have to just go with it. So it's kind of but I really like the beauty, as you've heard in my music, of layering drums.
Yeah.
Layering, So this allows me to do that. So
we're excited. We're excited to hear you.
Me too.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. This was a real special treat. Thank you for the courage, to do all this fancy looping. Wow. For me, I felt the 15 or...
It was for 3 4s and and then a and then a 6. No, and then a 3. So it was 3 4s and a 3. Did you get? Was that 15? Yeah. I had the rhythms in my head, but I didn't count it out. I didn't do the math. But I love these long time cycles. It's so fun.
Beautiful rhythms, really beautiful rhythms. Marla, thank you so much. Beyond belief, you really went to the very edge. That's very daring. People will just really love what they see. So for now, we are actually ending our episode with deep gratitude to you. With a little bit of my last symphonic music that I composed together with Johnny also.
Wow.
And it's called Space Beyond Space.
Cool.
Marla, where can people find you on the net?
MarlaLeigh.com, and my academy is called Fringe of Academy. And, you can purchase my album there. If you guys like what you heard, you can come drum with me if you want to learn to drum
Please check her out. It's really unique. I'm still really blown away by that you take the courage to do this online, not just hiding behind fancy recordings, but really getting out. Thank you so much for that.
You've got to live passionately, and you've got to take risks, It's like life is short,
So thank you again for all this abundance, and you listeners, thank you for following us all this way. If you like my podcast, you go please to powerofrhythm.com/podcast, leave a comment or suggest another guest that you want to hear, and I'll do my best to make it happen. For now, please digest this, please let it resonate into a new, beautiful future for all of us. Have a great day and keep on grooving.